The space around Earth's solar system lit up with bright flashes. Huge ships appeared from nowhere, their crystal-like bodies catching the light from distant stars. Admiral Kethver stood on the bridge of his flagship, looking at the small blue planet ahead. He had done this same thing many times before. Too many times to count. The hegemony had rules for this. Simple rules that worked on every world they found. First, they would scan the planet and count the people. Then they would send a message offering terms. Submit to hegemony rule. Give us your resources. Let us destroy your weapons. If the planet said no, they would kill everyone and take what they wanted anyway. It had worked on 47,000 worlds. Earth would be number 47,001. Kethver looked at his officers. They were busy at their stations, checking weapons and shields. Their faces showed no emotion. They had seen this before, too. The young ones might feel something the first few times, but that feeling went away. It had to go away. Report, Kethver said to his tactical officer. Sir, we have 200 ships in formation. All weapons ready. The planet shows primitive technology only. They have some nuclear weapons, but nothing that can reach us in space. Kethver nodded. Nuclear weapons were like throwing rocks at a mountain. The humans might as well try to fight them with sticks and stones. Send the standard message, he ordered. The communications officer pressed buttons on his console. The message would go out on all frequencies the humans used. Radio, television, internet, everything. The message was always the same, translated into whatever language the local species used. But something was wrong. Before the hegemony message could finish sending, every screen on the bridge showed the same thing. A response was coming from Earth. That was impossible. The humans should not have been able to break into their systems. The message should have taken hours to reach Earth, and hours for any response to come back. The voice that came through their speakers was calm and clear. It spoke in perfect hegemonic standard, the language used across their empire. No species had ever learned their language without contact. No species had ever responded so quickly. This is humanity speaking. The bridge went quiet. Officers stopped what they were doing and stared at their screens. Kethver felt a cold feeling in his stomach, but he pushed it away. It had to be some kind of trick. We know why you have come, the voice continued. We know what you have done to others. We are asking you once. Leave our system now. Return to your empire and tell them Earth is not for taking. This is your only warning. Kethver looked at his communications officer. How are they doing this? How are they speaking our language? The officer checked his instruments. His face was pale. Sir, I don't know. The signal is coming from everywhere at once. From their planet, from space around us, even from inside. Our own ships. I can't block it. We know about the 47,000 worlds you have destroyed, the voice said. We know about your methods. We know about your weapons. We know about your plans for our world. We are telling you one more time. Leave now. The tactical officer ran scans of Earth's surface. Sir, I'm not reading any major weapons installations. No space-based defenses. No orbital platforms. Just the same primitive technology we detected before. Kethver felt anger rising in his chest. No primitive species had ever threatened the hegemony. No world had ever spoken to them with such confidence. It was impossible and insulting. They're bluffing, he said to his crew. Some kind of radio trick. Maybe they captured one of our probe ships and learned our language from its computers. It doesn't matter. Continue the approach. But even as he said it, doubt gnawed at him. How could the humans know about the 47,000 worlds? That information was classified at the highest levels. Only Hegemony Command knew the exact number of conquered planets. The message from Earth continued for exactly 1 hour. It never changed. It never got louder or softer. It just repeated the same words over and over. Leave now. This is your only warning. Then it stopped. The silence on the bridge was worse than the voice had been. Kethver looked out at the blue planet ahead. It looked peaceful, small, harmless, but the doubt was growing stronger. Sir, his science officer said quietly, I've been analyzing their transmission. The signal pattern doesn't match any known human technology. The encryption is beyond anything we've seen from a pre-contact species. And sir, they somehow knew our fleet composition before we even finished our approach. Kethver's hands clenched into fists. Explain. When they said they knew about our methods, they were specific. They mentioned tactics we used on worlds in the Vega sector. Battles that happened 50 years ago. Information that should be impossible for them to have. The Admiral stared at Earth through the viewport. The planet was still there, still blue, and white and small, still apparently defenseless. But something was very wrong. How long until we reach weapons range? He asked. 18 hours at current speed, sir. 18 hours. Kethver had destroyed worlds in less time than that. But no world had ever spoken to him first. No world had ever known his language. Number. World had ever warned him away. Maintain course, he ordered. But increase scanning. I want to know everything about this planet. Every city, every military base, every weapon they have. If they want to play games, we'll show them what happens. To species that threaten the hegemony. But as the fleet moved closer to Earth, Kethver couldn't shake the feeling that the humans had been telling the truth. They did know about the hegemony. They did know about the 47,000 worlds. And if they knew that much, what else? Did they know? He thought about the voice. So calm, so confident. No fear, no begging, no desperate attempts to negotiate. Just a simple warning. Leave now. For the first time in his long career, Admiral Kethver wondered if maybe, just maybe, they should have listened. The fleet continued toward Earth. Behind them, space looked empty and normal. Ahead, the blue planet. Waited. And somewhere in between, invisible eyes watched every move they made, counting down the hours until the hegemony would learn what it meant to threaten a world that had been preparing for their arrival for 300 years. 3 days passed in silence. The hegemony fleet moved closer to Earth, like a pack of metal wolves closing in on their prey. Admiral Kethver watched the blue planet grow larger on his screens. Still no weapons appeared. Still no defenses activated. The humans seemed to be doing nothing at all, Doc. This made him angry. Every other species had tried something. They built shields or hid in bunkers, or sent ships to fight. Some begged, some offered treasures. Some threatened to destroy themselves rather than surrender, but the humans just waited. Sir, his tactical officer reported, we are now in position for orbital bombardment. All weapons are ready. Kethver looked at his officers. They were waiting for orders. The standard procedure was simple. Destroy the biggest cities first. Show the planet what hegemony power could do. Make them afraid. Then offer terms one more time before finishing the job. But something made him pause. Maybe it was the strange message from 3 days ago. Maybe it was the way the humans had known their language. Maybe it was just curiosity about a species that showed no fear. We will make an example, he decided. Take the Void's edge into their atmosphere. Position it over their largest city. Let them see what real power looks like. The Void's edge was his biggest ship, 5 miles long and covered in weapons that could crack a planet's crust. When people saw it hanging over their cities, they usually panicked. They ran screaming through the streets or hid in their homes. It was a good way to break their spirit before the real attack began. A massive ship dropped through Earth's atmosphere like a falling mountain. Its shadow covered most of New York City. People on the streets stopped and looked up, but they didn't run. They just stood there watching. Some even pointed and seemed to be talking calmly. "This is strange," the ship's captain reported to Kethver. "The humans below are not showing normal fear responses. They appear curious rather than terrified." Kethver frowned. "Maybe they don't understand what they're seeing. Charge the main weapons. Target the center of the city. That should get there. Attention." The Void's Edge's weapon systems powered up with a deep humming sound. Energy gathered in the ship's massive cannons. In 60 seconds, those weapons would turn 10 million humans into ash and vapor dot. Then every screen in the ship went black. When the screens came back on, they were not showing what they should show. Instead of tactical displays and weapon readouts, every monitor in the ship was showing the same image. Admiral Kethver's private quarters aboard his flagship dot. The image was perfect. It showed Kethver's desk with his personal items on it. His favorite cup. The picture of his bondmate Zara. Even the book he had been reading the night before. But that was impossible. These quarters were on his flagship, 30,000 miles above Earth. No human camera could reach that far. "What is this?" Kethver demanded. "How are they showing my quarters?" Before anyone could answer, the voice returned. It came from inside. Their ship's communication system, as clear as if someone was standing on the bridge. "Admiral, your personal access codes are Theta 779 Delta." Kethver's blood turned cold. Those codes were secret. Only he knew them. They were locked. In quantum encryption that was supposed to be unbreakable. Your flagship's reactor core is running at 73.4% efficiency due to a microfracture in containment metric 7. The Admiral looked at his chief engineer. The man's face was white with shock. He checked his instruments quickly and nodded. The voice was right. There was a small crack in Matrix 7 that they had been monitoring for weeks. "You have a message from your bondmate Zara waiting in your personal files," the voice continued. "Timestamp 15.7 Galactic Standard. The message says she misses you and hopes you will be home soon for your daughter's birthday. Shall we continue demonstrating what we know?" The bridge was completely silent. Officers stared at their screens in terror. Everything the voice said was true. Everything was information that should have been impossible for humans to know. Kethver's hands shook as he grabbed his communication device. "All ships, this is the Admiral. Emergency protocols now. Secure all systems. Find the source of this breach immediately." But even as he spoke, he knew it was too late. If the humans could access his personal codes and private messages, they were already inside every system the fleet had. "Captain," he ordered the Void's Edge, "return to orbit immediately. Do not fire weapons." "Sir?" the captain asked, confused. "Return to orbit now." The massive ship began to climb back toward space, its weapons powering down. Below, the humans in New York continued to watch calmly. Some were even waving. The voice spoke again, but now it came from every speaker in the entire fleet. 200 ships heard it at the same time. "You came here believing you understood the balance of power. You were wrong." On every ship, crew members checked their instruments frantically. Security officers ran through corridors, looking for intruders that weren't there. Computer specialists tried to find the source of the hack and failed. "Your ships use quantum encryption," the voice explained patiently. "You believe this makes your systems safe. But quantum encryption has flaws that you never discovered. We found them decades ago." Admiral Kethver watched his tactical displays flicker and change. For a moment, instead of showing his fleet's positions, they showed human children playing in parks on Earth's surface. Then they returned to normal. "Your weapons work by creating tears in space-time," the voice continued. impressive technology. We have been studying the debris from worlds you destroyed. We know how to build these weapons now. We also know how to stop them. How? Kethvar whispered, though he didn't mean to speak aloud. By doing what you never learned to do, the voice replied, somehow hearing his whisper across 30,000 miles of space. We listened. We watched. We learned. For 300 years, while you destroyed world after world, we studied every battle, every tactic, every weakness in your technology. The screens throughout the fleet now showed images from those 300 years. Hegemony ships attacking helpless planets, cities burning, millions dying. But in the corner of each image was something new, a small human observation probe recording everything. You never noticed us watching? The voice said. You never thought to look for hidden cameras in the wreckage. You never realized that some of the ships you thought you destroyed completely actually ejected secret recorders before they died. Keffer felt sick. If the humans had been watching for 300 years, they knew everything. Every ship design, every weapon, every strategy the hegemony used. Withdraw now, the voice commanded, and for the first time, it sounded less patient. Return to your empire and tell them what you learned here. Tell them that Earth's children have been preparing for this day since before your great-grandfathers were born. Or learn why 47,000 worlds couldn't prepare you for the 47,001st. The silence that followed was deafening. Kethver looked around his bridge at his terrified officers. He thought about his weapons that had been hacked, his codes that had been stolen, his private messages that had been read by strangers. For the first time in his career, Admiral Kethver understood what it felt like to be helpless. And in that moment, he began to understand that Earth might be very different from the other worlds. The hegemony had conquered Dot, the fleet hung in space, above the blue planet, and the humans below continued their normal lives as if 200 alien warships meant nothing at all. Admiral Kethver had heard enough. The humans could hack his systems and read his private messages, but they were still just one small planet against 200 warships. Raw firepower would end this game quickly. All ships he broadcast to. His fleet spread into attack formation. Prepare for full orbital bombardment. If these humans want to play with technology, we will show them what happens when someone threatens the hegemony. The fleet began to move. 200 ships spread out around Earth like a net of death. Each ship was armed with weapons that could destroy cities. Together, they could turn the planet's surface into molten glass in less than an hour. But as the ships moved into position, something strange began to happen. Captain Vorlek of the destroyer Star Render was the first to notice it. His ship was moving toward its assigned position above Earth's Pacific Ocean when his navigation officer called out in confusion. Sir, something is wrong with our position readings. According to the instruments, we should have reached our target coordinates 10 minutes ago, but Earth still looks the same distance away. Vorlek checked the readings himself. His ship showed it was moving at full speed toward the planet, but Earth wasn't getting any closer. It was as if space itself was moving backward as fast as his ship moved forward. Engineering, he called. Are our engines working properly? Yes, sir, came the reply. All systems normal. We are moving at exactly the speed we should be. But they weren't getting anywhere. Similar reports came in from ships all around the fleet. Vessels that should have reached their positions were still traveling. Ships that had been close together found themselves separated by thousands of miles. With no explanation of how it happened, Admiral Kethver watched his tactical display with growing alarm. The neat formation he had ordered was falling apart. Ships were scattered across the solar system in ways that made no sense. Some appeared to be moving in circles. Others seemed to be traveling backward. All ships report status, he ordered. The Replies that came back made his blood run cold. Admiral, this is Captain Thekmer of the Death's Wing. Sir, we have a problem. According to our navigation, we have been traveling toward Earth for 6 hours, but our sensors show we are still at the same position where we started. Void Striker reporting, sir. We tried to change course to regroup with the fleet, but every direction we turn leads us further away from our target. Admiral, this is Stormbreak. Our hyperspace engines are not responding. We cannot jump out of this system. Kethver gripped the arms of his command chair. His carefully planned attack was becoming chaos. Ships were lost in space that should have been empty. Navigation systems that had worked perfectly for centuries were feeding false information. Science officer, he snapped. Explain what is happening. The science officer worked frantically at his station, running scan after scan. Sir, I'm reading massive gravitational anomalies throughout the system. Space-time distortions that shouldn't exist. It's as if someone has been bending space itself around our ships. That's impossible, Kethver said. No species has that level of technology. Sir, the officer continued, his voice shaking, the distortions are artificial. They're too precise to be natural. Someone built them. The voice returned, coming from everywhere at once. It sounded almost amused. Did you really think a species that survived ice ages, supervolcanoes, and world wars would be unprepared for visitors? On the main screen, space around Earth began to change. What had looked like empty vacuum shimmered and twisted. Massive structures became visible, fading in like ghosts becoming solid. They were everywhere. Hidden platforms, energy fields, gravity wells that had been invisible until now. We have been watching you for 300 years, the voice explained. Every world you conquered, every tactic you used, every weakness in your technology, we wrote it all down. You taught us everything we needed to know about how to destroy you. Kethver stared at the screen in horror. The space around Earth was not empty at all. It was full of human technology that his sensors had completely missed. Weapons platforms, the size of small moons. Energy fields that stretched between planets. Gravity manipulators that could fold space like paper. How? He whispered. You always did the same thing, the voice replied. Attack from space. Use your superior technology to overwhelm primitive defenses. It worked every time, so you never changed your methods. You became predictable. A new image appeared on every screen in the fleet. It showed the hegemony's own tactical manuals, secret documents that detailed exactly how they conquered worlds. But these copies had notes written in the margins. Human notes, comments about weaknesses, suggestions for improvements, plans for countermeasures. We read your instruction books, the voice said simply. You left copies on every world you destroyed. We learned how you think, how you plan, how you attack. Then we prepared for the day you would come here. Captain Vorlak's ship suddenly lurched, as if grabbed by a giant hand. His engines showed full power, but the ship was no longer moving under its own control. Something was pulling it through space toward a destination he could not see. Admiral, he called over the communication system. We are caught in some kind of tractor beam, but there's no source. It's coming from empty space. All ships, Kethver ordered desperately. Fire weapons. Target anything that looks like a human installation. The ships tried to obey, but their weapons would not fire. Targeting systems locked onto their own fleet instead of human targets. Weapon batteries rotated to point at allied vessels. Safety systems that had never failed before suddenly activated to prevent friendly fire. Your weapons are very impressive, the voice observed, but they work through computer controls. And we have been inside your computers since the moment you entered our solar system. One by one, the ships of the great hegemony fleet found themselves helpless. Engines that would not respond to commands, weapons that would not fire, navigation systems that led them in circles, hyperspace drives that simply refused to work. But the most terrifying thing was that the humans were not destroying them. They could have. It was obvious they had the power to turn every ship into scrap metal in seconds. Instead, they were being herded like cattle toward some unknown destination. "Where are you taking us?" Kethver demanded. "To school," the voice replied. "You came here to teach us about submission. Now we will teach you about preparation, about patience, about what happens when you underestimate a species that has had 3 centuries to plan for your arrival." Through his viewport, Kethver could see other ships being moved through space by invisible forces. The proud fleet that had conquered. 47,000 worlds was being pushed around like toys in the hands of a child. And somewhere ahead, hidden in the darkness between the stars, something very large was waiting for them to arrive. The hegemony fleet that had once been the terror of the galaxy now drifted helplessly through space like broken toys. Admiral Kethver watched through his viewport as ship after ship was systematically disabled by an enemy he could not see or fight. The humans did not use the massive weapons that Kethver expected. There were no planet-killing lasers or reality-crushing bombs. Instead, they used something far more frightening. Perfect knowledge of how hegemony technology worked. Captain Vekmer's ship was the first to go completely dark. His engines simply stopped working. Not damaged, not destroyed. They just stopped. The ship's computers began shutting down systems one by one, following shutdown procedures that no one on board had authorized. "This is Death's Wing," Vekmer called over the communication system. "All our systems are powering down. Life support is stable, but we have no control over anything else. It's like the ship is putting itself to sleep." Similar reports came from across the fleet. Ships that had operated perfectly for decades were betraying their own crews. Navigation computers guided vessels into collision courses with asteroids, then activated emergency brakes at the last second. Weapon systems targeted allied ships, forcing captains to manually override their own guns. But the most terrifying incidents happened to ships that tried to run. The destroyer Stormfang attempted to break away from the group and escape the solar system. Its captain fired the hyperspace engines at maximum power. A ship vanished in a flash of light, successfully jumping to faster-than-light speed. 10 minutes later, it reappeared in exactly the same spot. "This is Captain Vex of Storm." "Fang," came the confused report. "Sir, we jumped to hyperspace normally, but something went wrong. According to our instruments, we traveled for 3 hours and covered 50 light years. But when we dropped back to normal space, we were right back where we started." Admiral Kethver felt cold fear creeping up his spine. "Explain." "Sir, I can't. Our navigation shows we went to the Rigel system and back. Our engines show normal power consumption for a 50 light-year journey, but we never left Earth's solar system." The voice of humanity spoke again, and this time it sounded almost gentle, like a teacher explaining something to a confused student. "Your hyperspace technology creates tunnels through folded space," it said. "Very clever. But if someone knows how to build the same tunnels, they can also control where those tunnels lead. We have been guiding your escape attempts in circles for hours." More ships tried to flee. All of them returned to the same position after traveling impossible distances to nowhere. The hegemony fleet was trapped in a cage made of twisted space-time.as. The hours passed. The situation became more hopeless. Ships lost power one by one, their crews forced to abandon them in escape pods. But even the escape pods were controlled by invisible hands, guided toward a destination that Kethver could not see. "Sir," his science officer reported quietly, "I'm detecting a massive structure ahead. It was not there before, but now it's appearing on our sensors. Cuthbert looked at the screen and felt his heart stop. A space station was materializing out of nothing, not being built, but simply becoming visible as if it had been hidden behind a curtain. It was enormous, larger than any hegemony station, with docking bays that could hold their entire fleet. "How long has that been there?" he asked. "According to the sensor logs, sir, it has always been there. But our instruments could not detect it until now." The escape pods from disabled ships were already docking with the station. Cuthbert watched helplessly as his crews were taken aboard. They were not being killed or hurt. The pod's sensors showed normal life support and no signs of violence. The humans were treating prisoners with more care than the hegemony had ever shown to captured enemies. "Admiral," the voice spoke directly to him, "you will order your remaining ships to shut down their weapons and follow the escape pods to the station. Your crews will not be harmed." "And if I refuse?" Cuthbert asked. "Then we will shut down your ships for you. The result will be the same, but you will have shown your crew that you care more about pride than their lives." Cuthbert looked around his bridge at his officers. They were watching him with expressions of fear and doubt. These were veteran warriors who had conquered worlds, but now they looked like frightened children. He had two choices: surrender with dignity, or watch his ships be disabled one by one until surrender was forced on him anyway. "All ships," he broadcast to what remained of his fleet, "power down weapons and follow the escape pods to the station. Offer no resistance." The voice responded immediately. "A wise choice, Admiral. Your crews will be treated as guests, not prisoners. They will be fed, healed if necessary, and allowed to rest. In time, they will be returned to hegemony space with a message." As the last hegemony ships docked with the mysterious station, Cuthbert found himself in a comfortable room that was larger and cleaner than his quarters on his own flagship. There were no guards, no locked doors, no chains. But he knew he was still a prisoner. A screen on the wall showed images from across the galaxy, hegemony worlds, conquered planets, the 47,000 civilizations that had been destroyed or enslaved. But now the images showed something new: human ships arriving at those worlds, not conquering them, but liberating them. 300 years ago, the voice explained, your empire made a mistake. You let our radio signals reach space. We learned that we were not alone in the universe. More importantly, we learned that there was an empire out there that destroyed anyone who would not submit. The images showed Earth as it had been centuries ago, a world just beginning to reach for the stars. Then they showed the same world as it was now, covered with hidden technology and protected by weapons that made hegemony fleets look like stone knives. We had a choice, the voice continued. We could wait and hope you would never find us, or we could prepare. We chose to prepare. For 300 years, every human who looked at the stars knew that someday you would come. Every scientist worked on ways to stop you. Every engineer designed weapons to fight you. Every computer programmer learned to break your codes. It became the purpose of our entire civilization to be ready for the day the hegemony found Earth. Kefir sank into a chair, overwhelmed by the scope of what humanity had accomplished. They had not just prepared to defend one world, they had prepared to liberate an entire galaxy. Your expansion ends here, the voice said with quiet finality, not through destruction, but through obsolescence. Your technology is no longer superior. Your tactics are no longer secret. Your empire is no longer unstoppable. Tomorrow, you and your crews will begin the journey home. You will carry a message to your leaders. The galaxy has new protectors now, and they learned everything they needed to know from watching you. Admiral Kefir had been a prisoner for 1 week, though it felt nothing like any imprisonment he had ever known. His room was comfortable, with soft furniture and a window that showed the stars. The food was better than what he ate on his own ship. No one had hurt him or even threatened him. That was what made it so terrifying. Every day, human attendants brought him meals and fresh clothes. They were polite and helpful, but they would not answer his questions about what would happen next. They only smiled and said he would understand soon. The other members of his crew were being treated the same way. Through the station's communication system, he could talk to his officers in their own rooms. They were all confused and frightened by the kindness they were receiving. Enemies were supposed to be cruel, not gentle. On the 7th day, a human woman came to his room. She was middle-aged with gray hair and kind eyes that reminded him of his own mother. She carried a small device that looked like a hegemony datapad. "Admiral Kethvar," she said in perfect hegemonic standard. "My name is Dr. Sarah Chun. I have something to show you." She handed him the device. When he touched the screen, it came alive with images and documents. But these were not human files. They were hegemony records, his own mission reports, secret communications between hegemony commanders, strategic plans that were supposed to be known only to the highest levels of his government. "How do you have these?" he asked quietly. "We have been watching you for a very long time," Dr. Chun replied. "Every ship you sent to scout this region, every probe you launched, every communication you transmitted, we intercepted it all. We have copies of your entire military database going back 2 centuries. Kethvar scrolled through the files with growing horror. Everything was there. Ship designs, weapon specifications, battle tactics, even personal evaluations of hegemony officers. The humans knew his empire better than he did. "We studied your methods very carefully," Dr. Chun continued. "We learned that the hegemony succeeds because it is predictable. You always do the same things in the same order. You never change your tactics because they always worked before. But that predictability is also your weakness. Once we understood your patterns, we could prepare countermeasures for everything you might try to do." She touched the screen and showed him new images. These were human installations throughout the galaxy, hidden bases on asteroids, observation posts disguised as space debris, listening stations built inside dead planets. There were thousands of them, spread across hundreds of star systems. "While you were conquering worlds," she said, "we were building a network. Every time you destroyed a planet, we sent secret missions to recover survivors and technology. Every time you moved your fleets, our hidden sensors tracked them. We have been preparing for this war for longer than most of your officers have been alive." Kethvar set down the device with shaking hands. "What do you want from us?" "We want you to carry a message back to your empire," Dr. Chun replied. "Your leaders need to understand that the balance of power in the galaxy has changed." She activated a wall screen that showed live images from space around the station. Kethvar gasped at what he saw. Hundreds of human ships were moving through the area. Not the primitive vessels his intelligence had reported, but sleek craft that seemed to bend space around themselves as they traveled. "These ships are already on their way to hegemony space," Dr. Chun explained. "Not to conquer, but to liberate. Every world your empire has enslaved will be offered freedom. Every species you have oppressed will be given the choice to join a new galactic community based on cooperation instead of domination." "That's impossible," Kethvar protested. "The hegemony has millions of ships, billions of soldiers. You cannot fight an entire galactic empire." Dr. Chun smiled sadly. "Admiral, we are not going to fight your empire. We are going to make it irrelevant." The screen changed to show images from hegemony worlds. But something was wrong with the pictures. Ships that should have been in orbit were floating dead in space. Space stations that should have been bustling with activity were dark and empty. Military bases showed no signs of life. Your technology depends on computer systems, Dr. Chon explained. And we have been inside those computer systems for decades. Every hegemony ship, every weapon, every communication device, they all run on software that we helped design. Kethfer felt the room spinning around him. You mean? We mean that when we decided the time was right, we sent a single signal across the galaxy. Every hegemony military system received new programming. Your ships can no longer fire on civilian targets. Your weapons will not work against unarmed populations. Your computers will not accept orders to destroy inhabited worlds. Your military still exists, Admiral, but it can no longer be used to hurt innocent people. Your empire's expansion is over because your tools of conquest no longer obey you. Dr. Chun handed him another device. This one was clearly human technology, small and elegant. This contains detailed files about every hegemony military operation for the past 50 years. Times, dates, locations, casualties. It also contains evidence of war crimes, illegal weapons testing, and the systematic genocide of 47,000 civilizations. When you return to hegemony space, you will give this to your leaders. They will understand that we have documented everything, every atrocity, every massacre, every planet burned for refusing to surrender. Your empire has two choices now. It can accept the new reality and work with us to build a better galaxy. Or it can continue trying to rule through fear, in which case we will release this evidence to every species in known space and let them decide what justice looks like. Kethfer took the device with numb fingers. You're going to let us go? Of course. You are messengers now. Your job is to carry our words back to those who sent you here. Dr. Chun moved to the window and looked out at the stars. Your people believe that might makes right, that the strong should rule the weak. But we learned something different from our history. We learned that civilizations built on oppression always fall eventually. They fall because they create too many enemies and not enough friends. The hegemony's time is ending, Admiral. Not because we destroyed it, but because we offered something better. Freedom instead of slavery. Cooperation instead of conquest. Hope instead of fear. In 1 hour, you and your crews will be taken to ships that will carry you home. The journey will take 2 weeks. When you arrive, you will find that the galaxy has already begun to change. The species you conquered are declaring independence. The worlds you enslaved are breaking free. And there is nothing your empire can do to stop it because the tools you used to control them no longer work. Kethfer looked out the window at the human ships moving through space like silver fish swimming through dark water. How many of you are there? Enough, Dr. Chun replied simply. We spent 300 years preparing for this day. We built ships, trained crews, and developed technology that makes your weapons look like ancient history. But most importantly, we never forgot what you taught us about the cost of freedom. Every human child learns the names of the 47,000 worlds you destroyed. They grow up knowing that somewhere among the stars, there are people who need help. That became our purpose, to make sure no other species would have to face the hegemony alone. As promised, an hour later Kethfer found himself aboard a human transport ship along with his surviving crew members. The ship was comfortable and well supplied, but it was clearly a one-way trip. They were going home to deliver humanity's message out as Earth grew smaller behind them. Kethfer thought about the conversation with Dr. Chun. The humans had not gloated about their victory. They had not threatened revenge for past hegemony crimes. They had simply stated facts. The war was over, the galaxy was changing, and the age of conquest was ending. For the first time in his life, Admiral Kethfer wondered if maybe that was not such a bad thing. The transport ship jumped hyperspace, carrying its passengers toward a hegemony that no longer controlled the stars. Behind them, humanity's ships spread out across the galaxy like seeds on the wind, carrying a simple message to every world that had ever dreamed of freedom. The long night was ending, and the dawn had finally come.